Welcome back to the Modcast YouTube channel. Behind me here, I've got my buddy's 10th gen Civic Si, and we're going to be doing a head gasket on this car today. As you can see, it's got some breathing apparatus on here. It's got a bigger turbo, so we're going to be taking that out of there and doing the head gasket. We're going to be doing this in the car. We are not taking the engine out, so we're going to give that a try. We've got a whole bunch of parts to go over here. So as you can see, Honda, we've got the new direct injectors, because those are a known issue on this car. We are getting a misfire on cylinder 2, which we bore scoped about a month ago, and found coolant down in the cylinder. So we are going to go with this Cometic multi-layer steel head gasket. We've got our Honda Bond here, new clips for the direct injectors, this fuel tube here for the high pressure fuel pump, which came with the polyethylene glycol that is needed, and we have some really nice instructions that came with it in basically any language you could imagine. I got it opened up to English obviously here, but it'll show you exactly what you need to do, and it'll give you the torque specs that are required. But along with this head gasket, we are going to be putting in some ARP studs. So we should be able to hold some more boost in this once it's done. You might notice that these are actually for a Suzuki GSX 1300R Hayabusa engine, and a company Map Performance has come along with these spacers that we can use to make this a lot easier to install. We have a new drive belt. We have the downpipe replacement hardware, which is all titanium. Same with the valve cover, just in case we have any issues. So first step of the process here is to pull the relay for the fuel pump and run it until it dies. It literally says in the repair manual, ignore it if any DTCs come up, because obviously you're going to have a loss of fuel pressure. So we're going to go ahead and do that and get started on this. In the box, it doesn't actually show you exactly which one is the fuel pump relay, but from what I've been able to find, it's going to be this blue one right here. So I'm going to pull that and try to start it, because when I pulled the fuse for fuel injection, it doesn't crank over. So I probably should have known that, but we're going to pull that and see what happens. If you didn't know these existed, relay pliers. They're awesome. Let's give it a try. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted. So now I'm going to disconnect the battery, and we're going to get started on removing everything on top here. Very big battery, as you can see here. They give you a nice removable tray with a heat shield. So now I'm going to take all the intake stuff out, batteries out. I'm going to start disconnecting the wiring harness. We're going to go to a time lapse here so we can get right through it. I have gotten to the point taking the air stuff out. Something went wrong with the time lapse, so now I am basically at a point where I got to start disconnecting coolant hoses. So I'm going to drain the coolant out of this thing and do the oil at the same time probably, so that way it doesn't have any fluids in it when I go to disconnect them. So I'm going to get on that, and for that I got to go under the car, so not much really to see there. There's a petcock, as far as I know, on the driver's side for the coolant, and then the oil pan is on the passenger side to drain the oil. I've got the bottom side shielding off, which we can put a link in the description for, but he has these metal ones that are definitely a lot better. I believe they are steel versus the really chintzy aluminum ones that Honda gives you OEM. I definitely recommend doing these on the bottom of your car if you're going to lower it, which, as you can see, this one is lowered. It is sitting up on ramps, but this car is lowered a couple of inches, almost, I think 1.5 maybe. So I would recommend that. However, I was correct on the driver's side. Can't really see down there, but there is a petcock for the radiator. So we're gonna take the cap off and get that draining. While that's draining, quick tip. So these plastic pop clip push pins that everybody loves, if they're ever giving you a hard time, because like dirt and a whole bunch of other stuff will get stuck in there, just take a spray bottle with some Dawn dish soap and some water, and you spray those down before you try to take them out. And usually you can work around and it pulls the dirt out of it and they pop right out. It's basically fully drained, so now I don't really have any issues with starting to take some of this stuff apart here. Get some coolant hoses, kind of difficult to get to the bolts for those, so we're gonna work on getting some of this electrical out of the way first, and see what I can do there. Alright, so as you may be able to tell, today's a different day. I got pretty frustrated. It was hot out, admittedly, and I totally didn't account for the fact that this thing has some aftermarket parts on it. So when I looked at the repair procedure, I kind of just thought like, oh, okay, it should be pretty straightforward. You can't really see, but like way down in there is the 5th bolt holding on this inlet tube for the turbo. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that out of there now, and that should make this process move along a lot quicker. So I got the inlet tube out. If you kind of like, basically like get this all loose, which I got in the back here. So there's this one bolt down there, and then I took this one hose off that goes to the intake manifold, and you can see this harness goes with this whole thing. And so once I unbolt these, everything should come out all together. You can't really tell because it's hard to see, but I guess I'll throw that on. That would make more sense. This is all kind of bolted in down along the water pump. So now that I can actually kind of get in there, I'm going to take the drive belt off and see what I can do about getting that harness detached here, because I think that'll probably be the next best step. I can now move these coolant lines out the way, which is a-okay. I can get this heat shield out that I prematurely disconnected. So we're making progress big time on the old 271 big turbo Civic. So I'm going to keep the time lapse going, but we're gonna work on getting the turbo out of here, getting the rest of the harness out of here, getting the valve cover off. And I'm going to take this Boomba catch can, at least unhook some of the hoses here, so that I can basically take the head off. I think should have it off in not too long, so we'll keep it going. Okay, so we've made it this far. I'm trying to get the turbo out of here. Just wanted to get this line disconnected. In order to do so, I had to take off that heat shield. You don't have to remove this because you can just kind of tilt it here, but you got to back all these out pretty slow just to make sure you have enough thread, but you don't have to force anything by anything else. So disconnect the wastegate, actuator rod, and yes, I know how to calibrate this. I've already had to replace a compressor housing on this once before, actually on the exhaust side, because it melted the wastegate. So I'm happy to hear that it's still working right now. So yeah, I got that out of there. Got these disconnected from down below, so I just have to get them unplugged, and then the rest of the harness is pretty loose here. I got everything off the top of the valve cover. Got these hoses taken care of, moved out of the way. Brackets are moved. You might find it interesting to know that, you can't see it right now, but that high pressure fuel pump is actually made by Denso, and so are a lot of the electronics in this car. So it's basically kind of a souped up Prius motor, sort of, built by Honda. It's interesting. So I'm just going to keep plugging away at this, and hopefully I'll have the head off within the next couple hours. My underhood light died. However, everything is pretty much off here. Got the downpipe out. Just disconnected the, whatchamacallit there, the V-band clamp, and loosened it on the bracket down there so that it just moves enough to get it unsettled. So I would recommend leaving these two bolts tight while you take that bolt down there out. I had to throw some WD-40 on it. See if it'll focus on it. It's that bolt right there, though. I had it for a second. Anyway, you get the idea. So there is a bolt head on the other side. So we are going at it from there. I'm using a 1/2-inch ratchet to do it, though. So I had those off initially, and it started wanting to pull away from the head, and it was basically just bending the bracket underneath. So I uniformly brought it back to the head, and now I'm gonna, hopefully that's penetrated enough, continue to get it off there. Goal for today is to get the high pressure fuel pump out, take off the valve cover here, disconnect the catch can. Also, belt has to come off, crank pulley has to come off, this motor mount has to come out. So at some point here, this wheel is going to come off. As you can see, it's sitting on a ramp here, so I'm going to jack up this side of the car with a floor jack and get the wheel off, get the crank bolt out. I did buy the tool to hold the crank. It's kind of a strange shape here. But this is what it looks like. I got it at Advanced Auto Parts. I think it was like 23 bucks. It's not bad. It's a real small thing here. I got the valve cover off, by the way, update here. So I'm going to be setting this to top dead center, so then I can comfortably take the harmonic balancer off, take the crank bolt out. I'm working on getting this off of here, but you may notice Map Performance also has these block-off plates here. They are a lot nicer than the stamped steel ones that come from the factory on this L15 engine. So I do recommend getting yourself some of those if you're going to be doing something like this. We had already installed these because they were leaking before, so they are kind of a bear to get to. So if you're not going to be tearing the engine down to this point, what I would recommend getting is a tool like this. This is what you're going to want right here. So you can go at an angle, and it essentially grips the Allen from pretty much any angle. I believe these are the RBRT edition ones of these. So RBRT is sort of like a extractor for Allens and stuff like that. So you don't have to destroy your Torx bits in the process. So I just want to gripe a little bit here. That thing kind of sucks to get off of there. I use soapy water. You just kind of spray it in as you kind of work it off of there. But there is a stud here, and a stud down back here. It's all 12 millimeter. There's a couple of bolts in between. But I do have the valve cover off. I got that end cover off that houses the lobe for the high pressure fuel pump. So now I'm working on getting it set to top dead center. So hopefully I can get this head off pretty quick here. There's only a couple more things after that. The timing cover, obviously this motor mount has to go first. And before that, ideally get the crank harmonic balancer off of there. Other than that, once I have it set to top dead center, I'm going to lock the timing chain tensioner and get the chain off. Remove the guides, get the camshafts out of here, And then from there, I think everything else stays housed right in here. It doesn't look like I have to remove anything else in order to get this head off. So I should be pretty good to go. The engine is now timed. It was quite a struggle. A lot of times you have to go around quite a few, but if you want this thing set exactly right, this is how you do it. So you can probably see the dot there, the bronze link, and the arrow. All that stuff lines up. Obviously the dot and the arrow are in the same channel here. Same thing over here. You've got the bronze link. There's a dot underneath it and an arrow. You also need these two dashes to be lined up on the variable cam gears. Down below, you might be able to see, yes, you can see the lines on the harmonic balancer. You are looking for that to be on the white one. I am slightly behind here, but I'll get that rotated just a little bit. I'm probably going to go a little bit past there so that when I rotate it back, after I've locked the timing chain tensioner, it will relieve the slack, or sorry, relieve the tension and give me some slack so that I can take the chain off. The wheels off. However, we're really struggling to get that crank bolt out of there. So I also did see a video where a guy ruined this wire in the process of taking this off. So I'm going to try not to do that. But now I need to find a new plan of attack here. Okay, so we are back at the Civic again. Crank bolt did not come out last time. I thought maybe I'd need some heat, but then it kind of dawned on me, like, hey, dum-dum, you should probably just get a weighted socket. So that's what I did. It took a couple of days to come in here, but this thing probably weighs like a pound compared to my regular impact socket. I can pull that out and show it to you. Give me un momento. Those are both 19s. So we're going to give that the old college try and see if I can get it to come off. Alright, crank bolt came out easy peasy, as I'm sure you saw. Probably looked lightning fast on the time lapse, but yeah, I've got the jack up underneath with a block on it to kind of hold the motor in place, because this engine mount is going to come out. And once that does, we are working on pulling the any idlers. Looks like we have maybe one that has to come out, and then from there we're going to pull the timing cover and start getting the chain off. I've got these pins in right here to lock the cams in place for when I do get that off. So yeah, we're going to get cracking on that. Motor mount is out. Engine is pretty well balanced here. So I'm going to take the crank pulley completely off and start taking the timing cover off. Got all the bolts out of the timing cover here. I just wanted to show you, this is that other MAP Performance block-off plate. I already took the bolts out. They're 4mm Allen heads. If you got one of those angle Allens, again, it makes it super easy to get to. So I'm gonna try to pop that off and then see if I can lock that tensioner in place. If I can't, you know, get it off with the plate off, then I will take the whole cover off first. Alright, in order to lock this out, you'll see it's got that little arm on there, so I temporarily just put the harmonic balancer on there. If you leave the spark plugs in, you won't be able to do this, by the way, because of the compression, but you notice if I rotate it backwards, it just about lines up. So I could probably get it the rest of the way if I had the tool on there, so I'm going to do that. Put the pin through the hole into the other hole, and then it should be good to take the cover off and then remove the actual tensioner itself. I could probably get it out of there if I really tried, but it looks like it might be easier to do with the cover off completely. Well, that's a little bit more torn down than it was before. So these are still locked in place. These didn't shift at all when I took it apart. Obviously you saw how I did everything. So I just have all the timing components with the timing cover. I know where everything goes. Obviously when I go back together, I'll have all the torque specs for it, and I can leave a sheet at the beginning that shows you everything. However, I will say this is pretty deep in the timing cover. So when you go to, I think it's like, yeah, it's right about there. But I use the timing cover as like leverage against that solenoid there. I believe that's solenoid, probably oil control valve. So then I was able to just pop it right off. Running out of storage here on my phone, but we are down to the head bolts. I might have to take this out as well, the intake manifold here. So I'm going to work on doing both of those things, and then we should see what kind of carnage we have. Ta-da! So it looks like we definitely had some extra things going on here in the cylinder 2, and then starting again in cylinder 3. Looks like we had some sharing going on here a little bit. Not looking so hot, so I am going to check the block and check the head. Excuse me, I got some allergies. To make sure, you know, that both things are true. Gonna have to go back to the repair procedure to check those specs. But the head is off, all the valves look good, everything looks healthy. It's starting to get late though, so I'm gonna call it a night. Alright, so I got the cylinder head off of there. I'm now going to check it to make sure that there isn't excess warpage. So the spec, according to the repair manual, is 0.08 millimeters, brand new, or 0.03 of an inch maximum. So it would need to be resurfaced if it is more than that. So we're gonna take out my precision straight edge and my feeler gauge, and we are going to measure the cylinder head. Now there's a couple of things that you have to do when you measure it. So obviously it has to be set up on a nice surface, and also you need to make sure you measure in all the right places. So we're gonna get to doing that now. Okay, so now that I've figured out that this actually works, I got the cams out, got all the rollers for these rocker arms here folded up out of the way. They literally just pivot. And you're going to want a tool kind of like this. So Lyle has a tool similar to this. This is a keeper installation and removal tool. Let me pull it apart so I can show you. So you just pull it apart, take the handle off. One side has a magnet ring in it. The other side has this little ball that pushes in and out. That's what allows you to reinstall it. This is the removal side, and you literally just support underneath the valves here. Under the head, you can see I just have like a rag there, and you push down with the tool, and it allows the keepers to release, and it catches them with the magnet. So I'm going to go across and pull all of those out of there. We're going to do the exhaust side and the intake side. I'm going to do the exhaust first because I know that was leaking, and then I'll do the intake side. No more springs, so you can see the umbrella seals and the valves exposed. So one other thing that we're doing is we're not just doing OEM valve seals. When I do this lapping, we're actually going to do the SuperTech intake and exhaust valve seals. Evidently this is a common thing. These were, I believe, supplied by Kelford through a guy that is on the forums for all these Honda engines. Okay, so all the seals are out. Got the valves out of there, obviously. I can't see too well. But these valves are tiny. My finger barely fits in there. Small displacement engine, doesn't really need huge valves. But what I'd like to do now, that I wipe that down a little bit, is clean up the actual stems on the valves a little bit here. Get some of the little bit of carbon off of there, and then we'll be ready to set up the lapping. So things went a little awry, as I said. The sprocket cracked, and I was going to show you how to lap valves, but I had an issue with the GoPro. So there's actually instructions written on the grinding compound as to how to use it and get the desired grit that you want. So now I am going to torque all these camshafts down, set everything top dead center. The crank is set to top dead center, and so I'll get these cams all lined up, get the chain back on, get all the timing stuff on, and then get this back together again. And just definitely make sure that sprocket down there is installed the right way. It makes a big difference. I've been going back together. Just wanted to mention, make sure you clean all of your machined mating surfaces. This whole surface is clean. That upper, or the oil pan surface is clean for where the timing cover meets. I have all of this installed here. I'm working on installing the end plate that we have by Map Performance. Just like this one here, you'll see the Honda bond is squished out the sides. If I flip it over, you can see on the back that it's nice and clean and everything is sealed up good. So I don't have the GoPro, unfortunately, now because my Modcast co-host went out to Grid Life and he has it there with him. So I am just working on finishing up putting this all back together, and then all of the dressings can go on, turbo, intake, and wiring and such. So I will update you once I've done more. Covers are on. Some new titanium hardware here for the valve cover, just to dress it up a little bit. You need to put sealant right there, even if you are doing a new gasket. That's just the mating surface. Same thing with where this housing goes up. However, I am on to installing the harmonic balancer or crank bolt. It is a lubricated torque, so it's wet torque with engine oil to 52 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. So this is going to be a fun one. All right, so I got into a time crunch, but as you can see, everything is good to go. Reassemble, in the same order that you disassemble. Really make sure that all of your hose clamps are in an accessible area. Make sure they're fully seated. You're going to want to make sure, everything's plugged in, everything's torqued down. There's a lot of little 10mm bolts here that hold pretty much everything in, that are easy to miss. So one thing I can recommend is the wastegate actuator has a calibration procedure. So you can see sort of this second wire in right here, it's yellow, it has a blue stripe, and then the wire in the middle. If you back probe, I can show you how to do a proper back probe, but if you back probe that, so basically you unplug it, you cycle the key on, engine off, and you plug it back in. That allows you full control over moving the actuator rod, and so you set it so that it is, I believe it has to be fully closed, and then you adjust this, and you can check me. Full Race has instructions on this on their website, so if I'm wrong about this, go look that up. But the key part is unplugging this and then plugging it back in so the computer doesn't try to send power to it. Then you adjust this nut here. So you're going to loosen the outside nut and then hold the inside nut, or rotate this to get to the right depth, and then tighten this. You're going to want to be, I believe it's 1.26 to 1.44 bolts. It's on a 5-bolt reference. So you can check out their instructions. I'll put a link in the bio. At the bottom here, I will put a link for all the 271 parts on this car, the Boomba catch hand, the Acuity shift kit, and oil cap. Other than that, all OEM parts and the Kinetic head gasket and ARP studs. We used Honda bond to reseal this thing, but I'm going to take it for a rip and see how she goes. Time to go on a test drive. We're going to see if everything is working as it should. No check engine light as of yet. Some other lights on, just have to drive to calibrate those things like steering angle sensor and stuff like that. So we'll get it rolling and see how it goes. Well, that didn't last very long. Turns out this thing makes a lot of boost, so I blew a charge pipe off. Nothing major. Gonna put it back on, make sure all the other connections are real tight, and then we'll go again. All right, time to give it a rip. Everything's tightened up. So, successful story on the ARP head stud, super tech valve seal, Cometic head gasket install. Couple of upgrades brought on by a repair. We did new direct injectors as a part of this because those are a known issue with the Hondas anyway. So we took care of those. I lapped the exhaust side valves because they were leaking, replaced all the valve seals, and put everything back together. I showed you a couple of tools along the way, but everything seems to be working. It's getting up to about 24 pounds of boost, which is right around where we want it to be. We may need to make some adjustments to the Honda data now that everything is kind of back together and working. So yeah, I will let you know what happens with it in the future, because there's a lot more to come with this car and a bunch of other cars on the channel. So thank you for tuning in, and please drop us a comment, tell us what you think, tell us what we screwed up, what you'd like to see different. Please toss us a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and I will see you guys later.